Welcome back to Brojo Online Podcast. Today I'm going to go a little out of my lane and talk about parenting. I'm not a parenting expert by any means, but I have been involved in the development of adults, and I've seen clear trends as to how they were parented and what that led to in terms of their confidence as adults. And as a result, I have some ideas on what would raise a kid to be a confident kid as opposed to what is likely to kill their confidence when they grow up. So, as I said, I'm not an expert. I have a couple of people I would recommend you look into. Janet Lansbury is one who does the respect type parenting designed by Magda Gerber, and Gabor Mate, the trauma specialist. While he's not necessarily a parenting expert, he's a good resource for figuring out what you shouldn't do to kids when they're younger if you want them to grow up well. Now, while I'm not a parenting expert, I have done a lot of research into parenting styles and into child psychology, and I have seen that there is a range of approaches to being a parent that can work out well, and there are a range that don't work out well. So I'm just going to be giving my opinions on all of this. This really is an opinion piece more than it is like a scientific, factual piece, and you can just take it with a grain of salt and decide for yourself. But if there is anything I am an expert in, it's the psychology of confidence, and how that links to parenting is what I'm going to be talking about today. So there are certain parenting styles that generally work out pretty well if they're applied consistent to the principles of those styles. Lighthouse parenting is probably my favorite, and you can go and look up all of these terms, by the way, where you're there, you're present, you're overseeing things, but you don't intervene very much. Okay, you let the child make their own decisions and take their own risks. You just make sure that there are boundaries so that they don't get too badly hurt. You're not neglecting them, neither are you interfering. Free range parenting, it might even be another way of describing lighthouse parenting, but free range is basically you're going to give the kids full autonomy. Now, it doesn't mean you neglect them, you're still present and aware, but you let the kids make a lot of their own decisions. You let them take risks. Again, you're kind of letting them decide for themselves what's right and wrong and how they want to live. And even gentle parenting, as it's known, this approach where the child's emotions and thoughts, feelings are validated, respected, they're treated as individuals who know what's best for themselves, and so on. Now, there can be problems with all of these styles as well, especially misapplying or misunderstanding some of the principles. But in my opinion, if you want to raise a confident kid, you won't go too wrong with applying one of those styles. And there are some styles that I believe are almost certainly not going to get you good results if you want a confident kid. Now, it's not to say that these styles are definitely abusive or definitely traumatic, but it would require the kid to overcome the parenting to become confident rather than the parenting encouraging it. Strict parenting. This leads generally children to become dishonest because they are not allowed to do anything that they want to do. And so, in order to do what they want, they have to lie about it. They have to pretend to be someone more convenient and more compliant than they actually are, or they really do become that compliant and they sacrifice all sense of autonomy and self in order to become a people pleaser. Being very strict is basically imposing your way onto your children, treating them like they're your property and that they must behave the way you think is best for them. And it very rarely leads to a confident, autonomous kid. Tiger parenting, popularized in various Asian cultures, is this idea where you put heaps of pressure on the kid to succeed and to perform very highly. You're just on them all the time, forcing their decisions, making them do what you think is best for them, pushing them very, very hard, uh, all about sort of getting an A, getting 100%, winning the competition, being the best violinist, so on. Generally, this leads to a couple of things. One is the kid never gets to decide for themselves what they want to do with their life. It's just forced on them. And all the pressure and stress causes them to be basically quite miserable and resentful. And it's very, again, very unlikely that you will get a confident kid, but you might get a very competent kid. So you get a kid that does very well. It's the same with strict. You know, they do really well in school. They get high marks. They win the competitions. They're the quarterback of the football team. They're all these things, but they might actually be quite miserable on the inside. If you want an insight into this, the book Open by Andre Agassi, he's a great example of being a child of tiger parenting. He was forced to play tennis basically, and he hated it the whole time. And helicopter parenting, which is very popular these days because, we live in a time and an age, especially in the Western world, where parents have more free time and more ability to be involved with their child's lives than ever before. And some of them are overdoing it. They won't let their child take any risks. They won't let their child make any decisions. They coddle to every need that the child has. The child is basically wrapped in these security blankets their entire life. And of course, that leads them to be very fragile as adults because they don't do any necessary risk taking or suffer necessary pain for their development. Again, I just got to emphasize this is an opinion piece. So if you're offended by anything I say, understand I'm not challenging you scientifically. I'm just saying after studying confidence for 20 years and understanding the variables of confidence, these parenting styles either support those variables or disable them. What I generally recommend is rather than being dogmatic and sticking with a style, even if the style is just your family culture and it doesn't have a name, I suggest to do what most successful people in most areas do, which is you pick and choose strategies and tactics that work well, get healthy results, and suit you personally. All right, there's no one style that fits all. If you think of the free range style of parenting, I mean, you have to be quite a brave parent, an outgoing parent, and a trusting parent to be able to pull that one off because it's quite scary to let your kids run amok and do whatever the fuck they want. Um, and you might also have, let's say, if you have a child that's a bit disordered or has some sort of developmental disability, then letting them just do everything they want for themselves is actually a bad idea. So you have to pick what works for you and your environment, but at the same time, try and stick with healthy principles for building confident kids, if that's what you want as a confident kid. And to make it clear, there are certain behaviors that are objectively unhelpful when it comes to parenting, certain tactics, strategies, treatments of children that are never going to be the best possible way available. All right. They are either harmful or extremely harmful, but they're not helpful, even though you may have been raised to believe that they are. So I'll take the obvious one that's going to make people feel uncomfortable: shouting, using force and violence, even spanking. While this might get an immediate reward, the kid becomes more convenient to you immediately as a result of this, I promise you it's not the ideal way to encourage healthy behavior from your children, right? There is always going to be a better approach than raising your voice or forcing them physically and using violence. Now, there are always some sorts of exceptions. If your kid's about to run onto the road, for example, pulling them away or shouting at them might be necessary. So if the kid's going to endanger their life and you have to intervene physically to prevent that from happening, so be it. But it would only be minimum necessary force to achieve the safety of the child. It never needs to be used as a punishment or as a threat. And for those of you thinking like, oh, that's what happened to me and I turned out fine, what I'd say to you is you turned out less good than you could have. Okay, so even if you did turn out fine, you'd be even better without it. It's as simple as that. Shaming emotions. That's almost never going to go well for the kids psychologically. So if they are made to feel wrong for just having emotion, and this is not the same as behaving according to the emotion, just having it, for being angry, sad, disappointed, frustrated, scared, if they're told it's wrong to feel that way, real boys don't cry. What are you scared of? It's nothing. Oh, get up, you're fine. This kind of shaming of emotion is going to cause severe psychological damage if it's, consistent. All right, that person's going to grow up fucked up. I can't think of basically anything worse you can do other than violence and sexual abuse than shaming emotion. You've got to let your kid feel whatever they're going to feel. That doesn't mean they're allowed to behave however they want. They're allowed to be angry. It doesn't mean they're allowed to punch people. They're allowed to be sad. It doesn't mean they're allowed to ruin the family trip. They're allowed to have the emotion, but acting on it's a different thing. But if you punish the emotion itself, they're going to grow up with a very warped psychology, and they're going to find it difficult to connect with people, difficult to make decisions, difficult to uphold a moral code, because emotions are the driving force in all of those things. Manipulation and lying. Nearly every parent I know succumbs to lying, and nearly every one of them justifies it. And yet, if it was done to them, they'd say it was wrong. Now, I get the temptation. Again, there's about a convenience issue here. A lot of people manipulate and lie to get their children to do something quickly for their convenience, and it seems to be the shortest path. But not only are you modeling manipulation and lying, you can guarantee your kid kind of knows you're doing this and they're going to end up doing it themselves, but you're killing your trust with the child. You know, if any of you listening now have lied to your kids when they were younger and then they're wondering why your teenager doesn't open up to you, this is why. We don't open up to people who manipulate us. We don't trust them. And if you want to get through the turbulent teenage years and have a healthy relationship with your kid when they're an adult, then honesty is going to be one of the main factors there. They might not always like what you have to say. You might have big arguments. You might have to explain things for hours. It is a hassle, to be honest. It really is. But compared to the hassle of having to deal with a broken relationship due to manipulation, it's nothing compared to that. Okay. You pay up front so you don't have to pay later. Spoiling and people pleasing. It's called spoiling for a reason. You know, spoiling means the thing is ruined. If you give a kid everything they ask for and you jump up every time they say jump and you say yes to everything and you always try to make them feel good, no, they're not going to end up healthy as a result of that. All right. They need to know what it's like to not get what they want. They need to know what it's like to wait for other people to sort out their own shit first. They need to know what it's like to have people disagree with them and have people have negative emotional reactions to what they're doing. If they don't understand that, the real world is going to destroy them and they're going to become very entitled. Bullying and criticism. You might think that you can correct your child's behavior by making them feel bad about what they did, but there really is no backing for that claim. All right, punishment, making people feel ashamed, does not improve behavior. It doesn't. It makes them hide behavior, makes them suppress themselves, it makes them hate themselves, but it doesn't make them into better people. Right, we're going to talk about how to make them into better people later on in this conversation, but understanding now that there really is no benefit. So these behaviors, you know, force, shaming, manipulation, spoiling, bullying, you will have done all of them by mistake or slipped a little bit, and some of them will be compulsive, repetitive behaviors and everything in between. None of them are going to destroy a child on their own. What I'm saying is they're not ideal, that there are better things you could be doing instead that are available to you, that you are capable of. So there's really no point in choosing these options. They're not the best available if the goal is that you have a confident, healthy, happy kid. Thank you for showing an interest in the Nice Guy Brotherhood, a group coaching community program for nice guys and people pleasers who want to become more confident and assertive to do better in their relationships and their careers. This is also for any man who wants to become more masculine, more bold, more honest, and more authentic. So in this program, we focus in on a lot of the people pleaser and approval seeking tendencies that hold men back from achieving full self-confidence and healthy relationships. Things like avoiding conflict, trying to fix other people's emotions, molding yourself to other people's preferences, failing to stand up for yourself, not going for what you really want, and not knowing who you really are. The goal, through the support of myself and the other members of the community, is to help you build the backbone to stand up for yourself, to stop caring what other people think of you, to stop getting lost in your thoughts and your feelings, and learn how to act decisively based on your own set of core values rather than what everybody else wants you to do. So we're looking to replace things like conflict avoidance and procrastination and trying to please others with going for what you really want based on who you really are. So we address all these issues through a number of methods. Firstly, we get together each week for a group session. Now, part of that is what's called hot seat coaching, which is somebody gets on the mic with me and we do a coaching session in front of the others, and everybody gives their feedback and support, and we can deal with specific issues that's coming up for that person in their life in relation to building confidence and overcoming nice guy syndrome. We also have group discussions during these calls. We share links and resources feedback, questions, and everything we can do to support each other's growth. And then also alongside these group calls, you get access to my full online library of self-development courses, which includes things like building rapport, setting boundaries, and learning to confront your fears. Now, if you're interested in the group, we have a deal where you get your first month for just $1 so that you can try it before you buy it and get a sense if it's really right for you and if these are the people that are going to help you achieve your goals. Once your first month is up, if you want to continue, then we have a monthly membership subscription. It's $250 US per month for full access to everything. This includes the entire archive of recordings from all the calls that we've had so far. And if you come along with a friend, both of you will get a 50% discount for joining together. There's what we call a zero risk guarantee. If at any time you're unsatisfied with the program, you can quit and you'll get your money from the last month given back to you, no questions asked. So come and check it out. If nothing else, for $1, you get access to everything for an entire month. No risk. I'll even return that dollar if you're not satisfied, because that's how confident I am that this program is going to change your life.